On a quiet morning, as the sun rose over the Spanish coast, a major police operation was beginning, but beneath the headlines, deeper forces were at work. Social structures, group ties, and economic pressures shaping the lives of all involved. This was not just any police action. It was the culmination of a long investigation into a network born from inequality and hope. Sociologists call this a response to social strain. When legitimate opportunities are blocked, people seek alternatives, even risky ones. Investigators had worked for months, gathering information and watching the smugglers. These groups are not random. They are structured, with leaders, intermediaries, and followers, each playing a role shaped by their place in society. The target was a large criminal group making millions by smuggling people from Algeria into Spain. Globalization and economic disparity create push and pull forces, pushing people from hardship, pulling them toward the promise of Europe. Smugglers promised a new life in Europe, but delivered danger and fear. For many migrants, the decision to leave is shaped by family, community, and the hope of social mobility. Yet the journey exposes them to new risks and vulnerabilities. Migrants were packed into unsafe boats, often without life jackets, facing a terrifying crossing. The group dynamic aboard, strangers bound by desperation, reflects the collective struggle against forces beyond their control. The Spanish Guardia Civil was ready to act. Months of surveillance and evidence collection had built the case. Law enforcement, too, operates as a coordinated group, mirroring the structure of the networks they pursue. Seizures would later include high-speed boats, powerful engines, fuel, and cash, the tools of a criminal enterprise, but also symbols of the economic gap that fuels such ventures. Actions took place across Spain: Almeria, Níjar, Tabernas, Espartinas, and Alicante, reflecting how migration and smuggling are shaped by geography, opportunity, and the shifting boundaries of community. These coastal areas were the final destination for many smuggling runs, but also the front lines where local communities, authorities, and newcomers intersect. The network was highly structured: investors, intermediaries, skippers, and logistics specialists. Social hierarchies and trust networks are the backbone of both criminal and legitimate enterprises. Over €1 million flowed into buying and assembling boats, with migrants charged up to €7,000 each. Economic inequality and limited legal pathways make such high costs and high risks seem worth it to many. Europol facilitated real-time information exchange, deploying experts to Spain to cross-check data and give leads to investigators. International cooperation reflects the global nature of migration and the need for collective solutions. The operation was not only about arrests, it was about protecting vulnerable people and upholding human dignity. Behind every statistic is a story of family, community, and the search for a better life. This success sent a clear message. Europe is working together to stop illegal and dangerous smuggling activities. But the roots of migration run deep, in social ties, economic need, and the universal desire for safety and opportunity. Chapter: The Web of Criminals. If you found this story insightful, please like and subscribe for more. Comment below with your thoughts or questions. Let's start a conversation. The smuggling network operated as a tightly knit social system. More than a business, it was a web of roles, hierarchies, and trust. Each member relied on social capital and personal bonds to keep the operation running smoothly. At the top, leaders in Algeria and Spain coordinated strategy, using their authority and connections to maintain control. Their power depended on loyalty and the ability to mobilize resources through informal channels. Trusted intermediaries, hawaladars, managed the flow of money, relying on reputation and mutual trust rather than formal contracts. These informal economies allowed the network to move funds invisibly across borders. Logistics managers in Spain organized safe houses, transport, and communication, acting as the operational backbone. Their effectiveness relied on close-knit relationships and constant information sharing. Boat captains, or pateristas, were chosen for their reliability and ties to the community. They piloted high-speed vessels at night, guided by local knowledge and trust in their support network. On the ground, recruiters, drivers, and lookouts formed a chain of social ties, each role filled by someone vouched for within the network, ensuring loyalty and discretion. Mechanics and support staff worked in secret, modifying boats and engines. Their skills and silence were rewarded through social bonds and shared profits. Suppliers, sometimes legitimate businesses, provided equipment, often turning a blind eye in exchange for payment or favors, blurring the line between legal and illegal economies. Cells in Almeria, Murcia, and Alicante adapted quickly, using local knowledge and social networks to shift landing points and evade detection. Southern Spain's proximity to Algeria and its established migrant communities made it an ideal destination, reinforcing the network's social fabric. When police pressure increased, the network's flexibility, rooted in trust and rapid communication, allowed them to redirect boats and resources instantly. Boats, cash exchanges, coded messages, and surveillance formed a complex, adaptive system, held together by invisible bonds of trust and obligation. For investigators, unraveling this web meant understanding not just the flow of money and people, but the social ties and informal economies that sustained the network. Chapter: The Dangerous Journey by Sea. Every perilous sea crossing is enabled by a complex social network, a smuggling machine built on trust, secrecy, and shared risk. Like a multinational enterprise, the smuggling network relies on strong social ties and mutual obligations, what sociologists call bonding capital. But unlike legitimate businesses, its trade is in human lives, an example of organized deviance, where social norms are subverted for profit. Planning happens in hidden rooms and through encrypted digital channels, where trust is reinforced by secrecy and shared risk. Communication technologies, messaging apps, burner phones, are the lifeblood of coordination, allowing rapid adaptation to threats. Coordinators in multiple countries use these tools to map routes, share intelligence, and maintain group cohesion. Satellite images and weather forecasts are analyzed collectively, demonstrating the network's ability to adapt, what sociologists call collective intelligence. The group pinpoints the safest nights for departure, using real-time data to minimize risk and maximize success. This adaptability is a hallmark of resilient social organizations, constantly learning, always evolving. The network is global, with recruiters embedded in local communities and couriers in distant cities, all linked by trust and shared purpose. Social ties cross borders. Family, friends, and acquaintances form the backbone of recruitment and logistics. Recruiters leverage village networks, while money couriers operate in urban anonymity. These roles are fluid, shifting as the network adapts to law enforcement pressure. Recruitment is relentless. Smugglers exploit social vulnerabilities, targeting those on the margins of society. They promise safe passage, using stories of success to build credibility and trust. But threats and coercion are never far. Debt and obligation bind families to the network. Informal bankers, hawaladars, move money through coded calls and trusted intermediaries, leaving almost no paper trail. These financial flows are based on trust, reputation, and the threat of social sanction for betrayal. Money moves invisibly, connecting distant actors in a web of obligation. The network's strength lies in its ability to adapt. Roles shift, routes change, but the social fabric endures. Transportation, too, is a web of moving parts. Boats, vans, lookouts, all coordinated through real-time alerts. Mechanics, drivers, and lookouts form a chain of trust, each playing a role in the collective enterprise. Secret workshops and hidden garages are hubs of innovation, adapting boats to evade detection, reinforcing hulls, hiding fuel tanks, and installing engines. Each task is a collective effort. Adaptation is constant. Every innovation is a response to new risks. Drivers shuttle migrants in covered vans, guided by lookouts who scan for police and send real-time warnings. The entire operation is a study in social adaptation, flexible, resilient, and always evolving. Isolated beaches become meeting points, chosen for secrecy and access. Lookouts with radios and binoculars are the eyes and ears of the network. Real-time alerts flow through the group, allowing rapid response to police activity. Communication is everything. Encrypted apps and burner phones keep conversations hidden from authorities. One message can mobilize dozens, drivers, captains, and ground contacts across borders in minutes. The network's sophistication lies in its ability to coordinate, adapt, and survive, an ever-changing challenge for law enforcement. This is the sociology of smuggling, a machine powered by trust, technology, and the relentless drive to adapt. Every crossing is a product of collective action, social organization in the shadows. The result? A resilient, adaptive network that persists despite constant threat. Understanding this machinery is key to disrupting it. Law enforcement must match the network's adaptability with intelligence, cooperation, and innovation. The smuggling machine is not just criminal, it's a social system, always evolving, always one step ahead. If police increase patrols, the network shifts routes and tactics. Adaptation is survival. This is the sociology of organized deviance, flexible, networked, and deeply rooted in social ties. The story of every crossing is the story of a social network in motion. Decoy vehicles, false paperwork, and bribes are all part of the network's adaptive toolkit. Each innovation is a response to new risks and opportunities. The network's survival depends on its ability to learn, adapt, and trust. Drones and night vision cameras are used to monitor law enforcement, closing the feedback loop. In 2023, Spanish police dismantled a cell that coordinated over 50 crossings in one summer, evidence of the scale and sophistication of this social machine. WhatsApp groups and wire transfers enabled rapid mobilization and payment, keeping the network agile. Typical routes start near coastal cities, crossing at night to remote coves, always adapting, always moving. The network adapts, using fishing vessels, shipping containers, and whatever means are necessary. For smugglers, risks include arrest, betrayal, and violence. For migrants, every step is fraught with danger. This is the hidden machinery of migration, constantly evolving, always one step ahead of the law. Law enforcement must keep pace with this ever-changing, deeply social threat. Only by understanding the social fabric of smuggling can authorities hope to disrupt it. The smuggling machine is a testament to the power and peril of human networks. This is the sociology of adaptation, deviance, and survival inside the smuggling machine. Algeria is a land where tradition and modernity intersect, shaping the daily rhythms of its people. Social norms are deeply influenced by faith. Islam weaves through public and private life, guiding values and behaviors. Community gatherings, at markets, in mosques, and during festivals, reinforce a collective identity and sense of belonging. In cities and villages alike, social cohesion is visible in daily routines and shared rituals. Extended families and close-knit neighborhoods provide support, but also set expectations for conformity. The call to prayer echoes through the streets, a reminder of shared faith and the power of tradition. Yet beneath this tapestry of unity, structural barriers limit social mobility, especially for youth. Economic uncertainty, high unemployment, and political stagnation create frustration and a sense of exclusion. For many, the dream of upward mobility is blocked by limited opportunities and rigid social hierarchies. Young people, in particular, feel the tension between loyalty to community and the urge to seek a better future. Religious festivals and family gatherings offer moments of hope and solidarity. But these same gatherings can highlight divisions between generations, between those who stay and those who dream of leaving. Migration becomes a collective decision, shaped by family discussions and community pressures. The urge to leave is not just personal, it is a response to structural barriers and shared aspirations. Collective identity both anchors and restrains, offering comfort, but sometimes limiting individual agency. Each year, thousands weigh the risks of migration against the pull of home and faith. For some, leaving is an act of hope. For others, it is a painful rupture with community and tradition. The decision to migrate is shaped by a complex web of social expectations, economic realities, and the search for dignity. Algeria's population nears 45 million, but opportunities remain scarce. The largest country in Africa, Algeria's youth face high unemployment and limited social mobility. Economic and political uncertainties stifle ambition and reinforce structural barriers. In this context, migration is both an escape and a challenge to the status quo. Social mobility is not just a personal goal, it is a collective aspiration, shaped by the hopes and fears of entire communities. Political uncertainty adds to the sense of instability, fueling the desire for change. Each year, thousands are drawn toward Europe by the promise of a better life. The journey means leaving behind families, friends, and the comfort of faith. Over 10,000 attempt the dangerous sea crossing annually, risking everything for opportunity. Migration routes trace desperate paths from Oran and Mostaganem on the Mediterranean coast toward Spain. Faith offers resilience and hope, but cannot always bridge the gap between aspiration and reality. This tension, between belonging and the urge to leave, defines life for many Algerians today. For Algerian migrants arriving in Europe, the journey does not end at the border. Assimilation brings new challenges, navigating unfamiliar customs, languages, and social expectations. Religious and cultural differences, such as the presence of Islam in predominantly Christian societies, can create barriers to integration. Research shows that both migrants and host communities must adapt. Migrants may struggle with local rules and beliefs, while host societies face the task of inclusion and mutual understanding. Integration is a two-way process, shaped by public attitudes, institutional support, and the willingness to bridge cultural divides. When Algerian migrants arrive in Europe, public debate often turns to the question of crime. Headlines and news reports sometimes highlight cases involving migrants, fueling concerns and, at times, fear among host communities. But what do the facts actually show? Sociological research reveals a complex picture. While isolated incidents involving migrants can occur, the vast majority of Algerian immigrants in Europe do not engage in criminal activity. Large-scale data analyses, such as those by the EU Agency for Fundamental Rights and National Crime Statistics, consistently show that crime rates among migrants are shaped less by nationality and more by factors like poverty, social exclusion, lack of integration. However, public perception can diverge sharply from reality. Media coverage tends to focus on sensational or high-profile cases, creating what scholars call a moral panic. This selective attention amplifies fear and can lead to the stigmatization of entire communities. Surveys across several European countries show people often overestimate the proportion of crimes committed by migrants. Sociologists call this perceived threat. It is important to recognize that crime is not caused by migration itself, but by structural conditions. Studies show that when newcomers face barriers to employment, housing, social services, the risk of marginalization increases. This can contribute to higher rates of certain offenses, not because of cultural background, but because of exclusion and lack of opportunity. Effective integration policies make a difference. Programs that promote language learning, access to education, pathways to employment reduce both actual crime rates and public anxiety. Sociological evidence underscores the importance of inclusion, social cohesion, fair opportunities for all. In the end, the story of migration and crime is not one of simple cause and effect. It is a story shaped by social context, media narratives, public policy. Most Algerian migrants seek safety, dignity, a chance to contribute. For policymakers, the challenge is to respond with evidence, not fear. Supporting integration, building trust, so that perception and reality can come closer together. The journey across the sea is not just a test of survival, it's a crucible of human connection. In the dead of night, migrants crowd into overloaded boats, strangers bound by a single hope. Trust is forced upon them, trust in smugglers, in each other, and in the fragile vessel beneath their feet. Most have no life jackets. The sea is black and cold, the waves relentless. Fear is constant, but so is the sense of shared fate. Sociologists call this collective action under risk. Each person's survival depends on the group's cohesion and calm. Smugglers push the engines to their limits, racing to avoid patrols. Any failure, engine breakdown, a sudden storm, or a leak, can mean disaster for everyone on board. In these moments, group decisions and mutual aid can be the difference between life and death. Darkness hides the journey, but it also hides the dangers, hidden rocks, sudden squalls, and the ever-present risk of capsizing. Social risk theory tells us that uncertainty amplifies fear, but also forges bonds. People cling to one another, sharing whispered prayers and silent promises. For those on board, hope and fear mix with exhaustion. Some pray, some hold on to loved ones. All are silent as the boat lurches toward an uncertain shore. In these moments, solidarity is survival. Some never make it. Boats vanish without a trace. Survivors speak of terror, of being lost at sea, of watching others swept away by the waves. The trauma is collective, etched into memory, shaping the stories they will tell if they reach land. For those who reach land, the ordeal is not over. Many are forced to wade ashore in darkness, hiding from authorities, still at the mercy of the smugglers. The bonds formed at sea become a lifeline on land. The journey by sea is a gamble with life and death. For every survivor, there are stories of loss, fear, and the desperate hope for a safer future. Chapter: The Hidden Money Trail. Beneath the surface of the smuggling network lies a hidden economy, one built on informal exchanges and trust-based systems that operate outside the law. Here, money is not just currency, but a tool of power and exclusion. Traditional banks are bypassed. Instead, wealth moves through invisible channels, hawala networks, coded phone calls, and face-to-face deals, shielding transactions from scrutiny and reinforcing social divides. In this shadow economy, trust replaces paperwork. A family in Algeria hands over savings to a local hawaladar, believing that a distant counterpart in Spain will honor the deal. The system thrives on reputation, but leaves the vulnerable exposed. Illicit wealth is laundered into the visible world, invested in flashy cars, restaurants, and real estate. These purchases mask the origins of money, but also deepen social stratification, as sudden affluence disrupts local communities. For those excluded from formal economies, these networks offer both opportunity and risk. Economic exclusion pushes people toward informal systems, but the rewards are uneven. Profits concentrate at the top, while the poor bear the dangers. Police investigators become social detectives, tracing not just money, but the relationships and informal agreements that sustain the network. Each ledger, each coded call, is a clue to the deeper structures of power and exclusion. The hidden money trail is more than a financial puzzle. It's a map of social exclusion, informal trust, and the consequences of illicit wealth. To dismantle the network, authorities must understand the society that sustains it. Chapter: The Police Strike. The dismantling of the smuggling ring was not just a feat of investigation, it was a demonstration of institutional cooperation. The Guardia Civil led a coordinated effort, drawing on the trust and legitimacy that law enforcement must hold within society. Coast Guard patrols and local police units shared intelligence, embodying the principle that effective social control relies on collaboration between institutions and the communities they serve. Surveillance, witness statements, and community tips were woven together, evidence that public trust in authorities is essential for legitimacy and successful policing. Investigators assembled a mountain of evidence, recordings, logs, and financial trails, demonstrating the power of institutional networks working in concert. Physical surveillance, wiretaps, GPS, and forensic accounting were deployed, reflecting the modern tools of social control that reinforce the rule of law. Digital diagrams mapped the organization, leaders, logistics, and financial channels, illustrating how legitimacy is built through transparency and accountability. Investigators located patera houses and garages, but also engaged with local communities, recognizing that legitimacy depends on public cooperation and respect. Searches revealed warehouses full of boat parts and evidence, but also highlighted the importance of visible, fair policing in maintaining social order. Forensic accountants traced purchases and shell companies, while institutional teamwork ensured that no single agency acted alone, reinforcing the legitimacy of the operation. Hawala ledgers and informal transfer records tied local actions to international crime, showing how social control must adapt to globalized threats. The final stage was a synchronized strike, planned with precision, executed with legitimacy, and supported by the trust of the public. Teams sealed doors, prepared evidence, and coordinated to prevent escape, actions that only succeed when law enforcement is seen as legitimate and just by the community. Vans left cities across Spain at synchronized times, a testament to the power of institutional cooperation and the social contract between police and society. The goal: to arrest leaders and support staff simultaneously, demonstrating that the rule of law is upheld through collective action and public trust. Months of patient, dangerous work were about to culminate in dramatic raids. an example of how legitimacy and social control are maintained in a democratic society. Chapter: The Day of the Raids. On the day of the raids, hundreds of police officers moved into position before dawn. Their actions would ripple far beyond the suspects, touching families, neighbors, and entire communities. Raids were synchronized across multiple provinces, aiming for maximum effect. But as doors were broken down, children awoke to chaos, and parents faced sudden separation. Social disruption unfolded in real time. In Almeria, Murcia, Alicante, and beyond, communities watched as neighbors were taken away. The sense of security was shaken, and the fabric of daily life was abruptly torn. Tactical units moved with precision, but the shockwaves of their actions spread quickly. Rumors, fear, and uncertainty swept through local networks. As suspects were detained, families faced sudden loss. Breadwinners gone, children left with questions, and communities forced to confront the reality of organized crime in their midst. Officers searched properties, seizing evidence and cash. For some, this was justice in action. For others, it was a moment of collective trauma. Paperwork and contracts were collected, linking suspects to criminal activity. Yet the process also exposed the hidden ties that bound communities together, sometimes in complicity, sometimes in silence. In garages and warehouses, high-speed boats and engines were found, symbols of a criminal enterprise, but also of the economic desperation that fueled it. Each item was tagged and logged, building a case for prosecution. The legal process would now begin, but for families, the disruption was immediate and deeply personal. Authorities arrested people at all levels: captains, recruiters, drivers, and financial coordinators. The collective response was mixed: relief for some, anger and confusion for others. Police also focused on helping migrants they found, providing medical attention and aid. Acts of compassion offered a counterpoint to the disruption, reminding all of the human stakes. The operation sent a message: complex smuggling rings can be dismantled through cooperation. But the path to justice is not only legal, it is social, requiring communities to heal and rebuild trust. News headlines and public reaction underscored the impact. For many, the raids were a turning point, a moment to reckon with the costs of crime and the meaning of justice. Evidence was cataloged and prepared for legal processes, a necessary step toward justice, but also a reminder of the social wounds left behind. The day of the raids was not just a law enforcement milestone. It was a test of community resilience and a call for collective healing in the aftermath of disruption. Chapter: Europe's Police Partner. The dismantling of this smuggling ring was not just a Spanish achievement. It was a testament to the power of international cooperation. In a world shaped by transnational networks, collective security depends on shared norms and joint action. Europol, as the European Union's law enforcement agency, embodies the institutional framework that enables countries to share intelligence, coordinate strategies, and build trust across borders. These institutions foster a culture of collaboration, where data sharing, cross-checking intelligence, and revealing hidden links become the norm, not the exception. In global sociology, such cooperation is vital. A phone number in Spain may connect to a case in France or Italy. Only through institutionalized teamwork can these transnational criminal webs be unraveled. Europol's experts worked side by side with Spanish authorities, demonstrating how shared norms and mutual trust underpin effective collective action. Analysts in mobile offices cross-checked names and numbers in real time, illustrating the sociological principle that institutions can bridge national divides through technology and cooperation. Specialist teams in money laundering and migrant smuggling prioritize targets, showing how expertise and shared values drive collective security. This expertise allowed investigators to identify the most significant threats and plan decisive operations, an example of how global norms shape local action. On the day of the raids, real-time coordination across borders accelerated decisions, giving investigators a complete picture, proving that collective security is a lived reality, not just an ideal. This seamless cooperation was a key ingredient in the operation's success. Data sharing and joint analysis build composite profiles, helping police detect cross-border criminal patterns earlier, an essential function in a globalized world. Europol's mobile office and analytical power are services national forces rely upon for complex cases. Their combined effort transformed scattered clues into actionable intelligence and arrests. Chapter: Why this victory matters. The dismantling of this smuggling ring is more than a law enforcement success. It is a restoration of social order. When communities see justice served, trust in institutions is renewed. Public confidence grows when authorities act to protect the vulnerable. This victory signals that society will not tolerate exploitation, reinforcing the shared values that bind us together. Sociologists call this collective efficacy, the belief that together communities and institutions can maintain safety and order. When criminal networks are disrupted, the social fabric is strengthened. The rule of law is not just a legal concept, it is a social norm. By holding perpetrators accountable, authorities reinforce the standards that keep society cohesive and resilient. When justice is visible and fair, it deters future crime and encourages citizens to participate in upholding social norms. This is how social order is preserved and restored. Large-scale operations like this demonstrate the state's capacity and will to protect its people, inspiring hope and a sense of security within the community. International cooperation is essential in a globalized world. When nations work together, they reinforce the idea that social order transcends borders and that collective action is powerful. Sharing intelligence and coordinating responses are not just strategies. They are expressions of collective responsibility, building a safer, more unified society. When the public sees effective action, trust in law enforcement and social institutions is reinforced. This trust is the foundation of a healthy, functioning society. Compassionate enforcement, helping and protecting migrants, shows that justice and humanity can go hand in hand, strengthening the moral core of the community. The joint effort between Guardia Civil and Europol is a model of collective efficacy, demonstrating what is possible when communities and institutions unite for the common good. Disrupting criminal profits and seizing illegal assets sends a clear message. Society will defend itself and restore order when threatened. This case is a blueprint for how intelligence, coordination, and decisive action can reinforce social norms and inspire collective confidence. Citizens are reassured when they see their values, safety, justice, and compassion upheld in public life. Social order is not abstract, it is lived and celebrated together. This operation is more than a headline. It is a testament to the power of community, the strength of social bonds, and the enduring hope for a just society. Chapter: A Lesson for Europe. The dismantling of the smuggling network sent shockwaves through local communities. Families, neighbors, and friends felt the immediate impact, some with relief, others with uncertainty. The operation was more than a law enforcement victory. It was a turning point for the social fabric. In the aftermath, communities faced both disruption and hope. Some families were separated and daily routines were upended, yet acts of kindness and solidarity emerged, neighbors helping one another, local groups organizing support, and a renewed sense of belonging taking root. Sociologists call this collective efficacy, the belief that together, communities can overcome adversity. Social cohesion was tested, but also strengthened, as people came together to heal, rebuild, and restore trust in one another and in local institutions. The challenges remain: trauma, loss, and the need for ongoing support. But the operation sparked conversations about justice, belonging, and the future. Community resilience is not automatic. It grows through shared effort, open dialogue, and the willingness to support those most affected. Across neighborhoods, new bonds were formed. Local events, shared meals, and moments of celebration became symbols of recovery. Social cohesion, the glue that holds communities together, was renewed, even as the scars of disruption remained. The lesson for Europe is clear. True security and justice are built not only through enforcement, but through the strength and resilience of communities. When people unite, support one another, and rebuild together, hope is restored, and the path to healing begins. As Europe reflects on this case, the real victory lies in the renewed sense of belonging and the collective healing that follows. Community resilience, trust, and shared purpose are the foundation for a safer, more united future. For more on community resilience and collective action, see the links in the description. Subscribe for updates and stories of hope. Like and subscribe to SmartoBrains for more engaging deep dives into breaking news, politics, sociology, economics, and social policy.